How's it going, everyone? It is Andre Williams, and over here we talk stocks and we focus on one thing. Always protect your profits. And today we're going to be talking about Opendoor Technologies. Many of you have been sending me messages, Dre, we need an update. There's not many videos on Open. You need to come through. And of course I'm going to come through for you guys. So before we get started, let's jump into the agenda. If you're new to this channel, I just want to let you know we have timestamps down below inside the description. But if you are a shareholder or you're thinking about taking a position, I highly suggest you watch this full entire video. So the first thing we're going to be going over is the technical analysis, taking a look at the overall price action. I know many of you are playing this for the short term and as well as for the long term, so I want to make sure you have a good idea as far as what's going on with the stock. And then secondly, we're going to be going on Fintel, taking a look at the recent institutional ownership and as well as the short interest information. This is key. We want to know if institutions have been loading up on shares, and we want to know how vested are short sellers inside of this play. And then we're going to be taking a look at the order flow distribution for today. We want to know, were institutions purchasing shares or were they dumping shares? This will have an impact on the stock, and I feel it's very key for all of you to know. And then when all of that is done, we'll be jumping into the final thoughts. So let's get to it. So we're going to be doing a technical analysis for Opendoor Technologies. Let's see how it performed on today. So it ended up closing at $15, being up 3.95%. On the low, it tested $14.14, and then on the high, testing $15.35. When we take a look at the volume stats on the day, you can see we traded at 5.797 million shares, and as far as for the average volume over 10 trading days, it's around 5.951 million shares. So even though we just had a tick below the average volume, we ended up seeing some strength inside of the stock today. So what does this mean? We had some buying and we had many who were holding. Yes, we did have some selling pressure, but for the most part, hey, it performed solidly. Now, when we take a look at the RSI down below, you can see it's right around 48.31. So it is in the oversold territory. When we take a look at the indicators on our chart, we are below the 200-day. We're also below the 100-day. And as far as for the 21-day EMA, we are above that because it's at 14.96 and we close at $15. So what you'd want to see is some momentum. You can see right here, yes, from this green candle, an area of resistance, and what we saw today, we had it at $15.35, and you can see clearly here, we have some resistance right around this $15.43 level. So if we are able to actually pass this area, then of course you want to look forward to seeing that move going to $16. And of course, this will be an area of resistance. It will be a psychological area, and there will be many who are taking profits due to the conditions we have inside of the market. It is very volatile. They have earnings coming up on August the 11th, so there might be some more room for it to run. But I would not be getting into a position anywhere in the $15 range. I would be looking to get in at the low 14s, and I would look to see, okay, will it be able to make a spike back up? And with the earnings coming out, if they end up putting up some good numbers, you might get a potential spike, but of course, you also can experience a sell-off. And as far as how far it can pull back to now, we've seen it get to as low as right here, right around exactly 1342. So this is an area to definitely keep an eye on, and I believe in the long-term prospects of Open, so I wouldn't even mind adding shares for the long term when it's in the $13 range. But one thing that we want to see clearly is seeing it hold up at least $14. Even when earnings do come out and it does decide to pull back, we want to see 14 hold. But below 13, hey, I love buying shares there. So let's see if it ends up making that move to 16 leading up to earnings. And of course, with the volatility, just know, hey, you have a game plan, you have a strategy, be prepared. Let's see what happens. So we're on Fintel. We're going to take a look at the recent institutional ownership and as well as the short interest information for Open. So as we scroll down on the page, green rows indicate new positions, while red rows indicate closed positions. So we can see for the 9th, yes, we do have some closed positions here, but we also have an open position by Quadrant Capital Group that went in with 796 shares. And we also have EMC Capital Management that purchased 2,500 shares. If we go back as far as last week is concerned, we did have institutions that had some filings showing that they loaded up. We have here just under 29,000. We also have Dollar Advisors going in with just over 23,000. We have Swiss National Bank going in with over 250 54K shares. And as far as sell investment, we have 42,700. Wafra, 15,968. We have Parallel Advisors going in with 176, and Blue Rock Advisors going in with just over 55,000 shares. So again, we see institutions have been loading up on Open. When we take a look at the short interest information, scrolling down on the page, the short shares availability is at 6.9 million, updated 17 minutes ago. And as far as for the short vol free rate, it is at 0.39%. Taking a look at the history of the short volume ratio, we can see here last week Thursday was at 38.21, and now for as far as for Friday, it was at 38.22. So since we've seen some appreciation in the stock price, I'll be very curious to see the short volume ratio does end up actually ticking up a bit. I wouldn't be surprised due to the fact they do have earnings that's going to be coming out. So there's going to be some volatility, most likely going to be some pullbacks and so on. But I just want to make sure you guys are prepared. From what we can see, Opendoor definitely has short squeeze potential. Now let's take a look at the order flow distribution for Open. So we can see here on the inflow side, it was 16.60, and then on the outflow side, it was 17.85. We have 0 on the large for both. On the medium, we have 5.12, and on the small, we have 11.48. On the outflow side, on the medium, we have 5.06, and on the small, we have 12.79. When we take a look at the large scale orders in the last 5 days, we have zeros down the board, none whatsoever. So this tells me I wouldn't be surprised if institutions instead were taking part in regards to small and medium-sized orders. So does this mean that Opendoor does not look bullish going into the earnings? No, there's just a lot of volatility, and again, there's going to be a lot of eyeballs, but I do feel if they're able to actually knock it out the park with their earnings, we could see some moves to the upside as far as FOMO and people wanting to get in, because this stock has been beaten down for quite some time. So we'll talk further about that. Let's jump into the final thoughts. So for my final thoughts for Opendoor Technologies, there's definitely going to be some volatility going into earnings on August the 11th. So if you're going to be playing this, whether it's for the short term, then you want to make sure you have a strategy. You want to make sure you're buying on the lows where you're seeing support. And of course, when it makes those run-ups, that's where you think about actually taking your profits. But of course, everyone's going to have different profit targets, especially whether you're going to be playing stocks or you're going to be playing on the options. As far as for anyone who's going long on Opendoor, because I do believe in the long-term prospects, so I do have shares for myself, hey, I'm just going to be holding through. I'm not planning to sell any of my current shares whatsoever. But if it does end up being a great earnings report, you already know I will load up on some more shares, especially if it does pull back, because I look at that, hey, I'm going to be getting this stock at a deal, and if there's volatility inside of the market that's going to be pushing the price down, the better it is for me, because I'm going to be planning to hold for quite a while. But of course, I want to make sure you're doing your homework and as well as your due diligence. As far as seeing what Opendoor is doing in the real estate space, they're really focusing on the data science behind it. So making sure as far as the homes that they're purchasing, they're in the right areas, and on top of that, being able to have good profit margins on them as well. So due to the fact they're actually taking these steps to improve their overall operations, it shows progression. So as far as that earnings report is concerned, that's why I'm going to be paying attention very closely here, because this is a company that has a lot of potential. And as far as the analyst price targets, it's actually around $28. So looking at the current price does tell you there's a good amount of upside here, and it's part of the reasons why I actually believe in it long term. For anyone else who's thinking about getting into this play, or maybe you're just thinking about, hey, trading off of the fluctuations, pay attention to what we were talking about inside of the technical analysis, and then use that as a guide to help you out. But of course, this is not financial advice, so if you decide to trade or take an investment, just know that you are responsible for the outcome. And before I close this video out, be prepared for the volatility that's going to be coming inside the market for this week. We have a lot of key numbers that are going to be coming out in regards to the economic conditions. So that is going to have an impact on the stock market. For example, taking a look at as far as the CPI data. So I just want you to be aware of that, because if you start seeing especially that 10-year bond yield start spiking up, then as far as for those growth stocks are concerned, which Opendoor is one of them, you're going to see some changes in price action, and I want to make sure you guys are prepared and you're not surprised when this does occur. And also keep in mind, when we went on Fintel, taking a look at the short interest information, yes, Open has short squeeze potential, and then on top of that, we do see institutions have been loading up on shares. So that does show, hey, you know, it looks kind of bullish there, but we're gonna have to wait, see what happens. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we'll be talking real soon.